I think that whether you're just starting out in tech now or you've been in the industry for 10, 20 years, you're doing yourself and your career harm if you're not thinking about personal branding and you're not thinking about your online presence.
Welcome, David. I learned something preparing this, that you were previously a Spanish teacher. How do you transition from Spanish teacher into software engineering?
That's a great question. And sometimes I'm still trying to figure out the answer to that. But, I think, I mean, the way that I got started in tech is, I think very similar to a lot of, modern day career switchers. I just kind of picked up some books on HTML and CSS and started teaching myself how to code, and eventually enrolled in some online courses. I entered into a certificate program with an online college for classes in web design and development. And that really gave me a great foundation in web design and web development. So I'm really thankful for that. And and then I kind of just, probably about 6 months or so into it, I just thought, hey, I think I'm enjoying this more than teaching. And, just the being able to tap into my creative side, being able to write code and see it come alive in the browser was something that was really inspiring to me. And just kind of made that decision to switch careers, and eventually landed my first job in tech as a web developer at a local small startup in Connecticut. Just kind of took things from there.
Cool. It seems to have been quite a common thing recently for a lot of people to transition from teaching to tech. What do you see as being the transferable skills that somebody coming in from a different profession, or from your experience from teaching, can bring to tech?
Yeah, that's a great question. And honestly, it's something that I never really thought too much about early on in my career in tech, and not until recently, the past few years, when I've been getting more into engineering leadership and I've been in some tech lead and manager roles, I've really started to connect the dots and see, what exactly were those transferable skills. I think they're probably more oriented towards the people side of software engineering, communication, collaboration. But, I think one of the wonderful things about teaching is, every class is different. And then within each class you teach, obviously you're going to have a whole wide range of students, learning abilities, personalities, things that they excel in, things that they need to work on. And I think that's very similar to working in a product development team, not only with engineers, but also designers, product managers, QA people, data scientists, whatever the team may be made up of. So, being able to, kind of get along with different types of people, and being able to communicate effectively with different types of people, I think is a very strong transferable skill. The other thing I think that's important with tech is, not everybody's going to understand quite where you're coming from, and, whether you might be trying to explain a technical concept or a bug, or your thoughts on a particular feature that you're going to be developing as a team. There might be some junior engineers that don't quite understand what you're talking about, so you have to kind of modify your language or, give some extra examples. Or it could be a designer or product manager that you're talking with that really knows nothing about the tech stack or what's going on in your world. So you really have to figure out ways to reach them and to communicate effectively with what you're trying to say to them. So I think communication, collaboration are very, very strong skills that transfer from teaching to engineering. And I'm glad that I've been able to do that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And there's one that I feel you've missed off there, and I'm kind of curious as to why you missed it off. Coming from a teaching background, what about teaching? The power of that, particularly as you move into being a manager and a leader of people.
Exactly. Yeah, that's another one that has been on my mind recently the past few years. As I've been focused more on tech lead and manager roles in my career lately, being able to kind of go back to those days when I was teaching and really convince myself that I was leading a team in a way back then, and I was responsible for teaching and and making sure that people were learning, and people were, doing their job, and that collectively we were, growing and learning together, right? And so, yeah, I think whether you have an informal role or title as an engineering leader, maybe you're a very senior engineer or you're tech lead, maybe you don't have direct reports, but you are still considered or viewed a leader on your team. Yeah, I think there's a tremendous responsibility on your on your plate to educate and to, not only help grow engineers with the preferred, best practices and coding patterns that your team is following, but also just to teach them and educate them on how to work effectively as a team, and how to communicate with designers, how to work with product managers when it comes to the roadmap, and when it comes to, sprint work and getting things into the sprint, right? Leadership is definitely something that I've learned that it's not, it's more than just about the job title, and it's more than about the responsibilities you're given. It's also about the responsibilities that you take on yourself. And what I've learned over the years is, you can be a very impactful and strong leader without having those formal responsibilities. And at the end of the day, I really feel like it being a leader is not really a title you can give yourself. It's something that others have to give to you. Others have to view you as a leader based on your actions.
Yeah, absolutely. I often say that, leadership is not a title. Leadership is something you do, and you become a leader when people start to follow you. And I like to point to Derek Sivers' excellent How to Start a Movement TED Talk, which is about 4 minutes long, and it's just this guy dancing badly. You could argue making a fool of himself on the side of a hill. And when he's dancing alone, he's a guy dancing badly on the side of a hill. When other people get out to dance and start following him, he becomes a leader. And it's that crucial time when people decide to get up and follow you. That's when you become a leader. Yeah, there's something else in the teaching I wanted to pull back on. I think a lot of software engineers feel that teaching is taking them away from being a software engineer and becoming better. And the more teaching I've done over the last 20 odd years of my career, particularly the last 5 years, the more I come to really believe what I think Richard Feynman said, is that you really learn and understand something when you can teach it to somebody else.
Yes.
There's a massive value in teaching things. So, I've learned so much over the last couple of years with coding challenges, and that if I want to get people to go and do the Docker challenge and implement Docker, I have to take my understanding of Docker to a whole new level, to actually
Yes.
implementing a runtime for a container engine, to actually understanding how Docker pull works and going and reading all the specs. If I want them to really understand a bit of Clone Redis, I've got to get all the way into the protocol and handling every single layer of that. So I think we undervalue as software engineers the power of teaching and how much it elevates you to somebody that can help the other people and you can level up and have a bigger impact. But it also really reinforces your knowledge. It takes what you're understanding to that next level, because you have to get to the next level. So you can cope with those questions. And sometimes the questions you get asked might be really easy, but you haven't thought about them for several years, or maybe you've never needed to know that little nuance. It can be incredibly powerful for filling out the gaps in knowledge that you're not aware of.
Yep, for sure. Whether you're, teaching a fellow engineer, a teammate, a coworker about, how a system works in the in the code base, or you have a newsletter and you're trying to write an article about something, right? It's true what they say, that when you start writing about something, you start explaining something, you really do learn, and it becomes revealed what you do know and what you don't know about a certain topic, right? You might be talking about a certain package or library that the code base uses and explaining it to your coworker, and then, like you said, they might ask you some question like, oh, well, are we using this particular feature of this library? And you might come back and say, actually, that's a great question. I don't know that. Let me go look at and find that answer out for you, right? You're gonna, when you take that leap to try and write about something or explain something that you think well, inevitably you're going to learn that there's probably gaps there. There's things that you don't know. There's maybe things that you've used to know but you've forgotten, right? And so it is really a good exercise not only for helping other people and educating them, but also for yourself to kind of, relearn some of those things as well.
Yeah, and to introduce you to new things. I mean, again, come back to coding challenges. I've written several of the coding challenges on topics that I may know well, but in going and doing a little research or trying to find a little example I can link to, I've maybe learned that, there's some new state of the art that's moved on. So, like, I think when I wrote about Bloom filters, I talked about hashing there. And yes, I looked at a bunch of hashes when I was at uni 30 years ago. When I then went, okay, what other hashes are people talking about these days? It's like, oh, there's a bunch of papers in the last 10 years that have been looking at some other things that are quite useful, and I can link to that and I learn about some new stuff there. So every time you do that, you might even get exposed to new knowledge you didn't have before and become aware of things that weren't there. Again, when I did the Redis coding challenge, came across zip lists, which I hadn't read about before. And again, it's just an enhancement on a linked list, but it's a little bit of new knowledge that I hadn't been exposed to before. So it was all fun chances to learn. That ties nicely on to, you mentioned a newsletter there and writing that. So I think over the last 18 months, you've been doing some side hustles, and the newsletter is one of those.
Yes.
What have you found as the benefits of that? How's that helped you with your career as a software engineer?
Yeah, I love that question. I actually started the newsletter because I was working on a bunch of side projects, and I wanted to kind of keep myself accountable to the work that I was trying to do. I wanted to actually, write weekly kind of summaries and updates on the different projects I was working on. And I thought that would motivate me and inspire me to continue to work on those projects. And I did that for a couple months, and, eventually I just kind of, I think what happened really was I started reading more newsletters, and I started following more people on, you know, platforms like Substack, and just really understanding the value that other newsletter writers bring to their publications, and just kind of eventually coming to the realization that most successful newsletter writers nowadays, they focus on one topic per issue, right? And they really try and dive deep into that, and really try and not do too much in that one weekly, biweekly issue, and really just focus on that main idea and main point. And that's when it kind of clicked for me, and that light bulb went off in my head, and I said, well, I think I want to do this. I want to move towards kind of this, theme-based or topic-based way to write a newsletter. That's how Besides Code was born. And, I really, at that point, decided that I want to focus on writing about, engineering leadership, helping, senior engineers level up their people skills, and learn how to become effective leaders, right? And then I did that for several months. And then now it's kind of shifted even more into not only giving engineers tips and advice for their 9 to 5 and their day jobs, but also the 5 to 9, right? And so talking about working on side projects, building in public, starting a side hustle, and really how that can improve and enhance your, not only your day job and your career, but your life in general. And so today I feel very strongly about the time that you spend outside of your day job, and I think that is just as crucial as those hours that you spend at your day job, and just being able to continue to learn and grow and connect with other people. And I think that is one of the, if you want to call it a hack to, having a long career, and, having a little bit more stability than maybe some other people in the industry.
Cool. So what's been kind of one of your prime side projects, and what have you learned from that? What's been the key learning that's come out of it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So last year I started building some SaaS apps, and I built 2 B2B SaaS apps. One was Agendaful, which was a Slack app for meeting agendas and one-on-one notes between a direct report and a manager. And then I built Feature Queue, which was a kind of B2B SaaS app for product development teams to be able to quickly track feedback, user feedback, and I started using AI to kind of analyze that feedback and turn it into a prioritized list of potential tickets or development tasks that could be worked on. I'm actually building two apps now. One is called Resume, and the other is CollabKit. And so I'm focusing on kind of B2C apps right now and really trying to target, for Resume, I'm trying to target, busy professionals and parents that are juggling a lot of things. And then for CollabKit, I am trying to actually target and market towards people like yourself that are, content creators and that have a lot of things going on, whether it's newsletter collaborations, podcast guests as well, and trying to kind of manage those too. So, I think that, working on side projects, building SaaS apps on the side has really just opened my eyes to what that whole world is like. And I'm convinced now that the building part is actually the easiest. The hard part is all the marketing and all the sales involved, getting, beta testers and then actually acquiring, real paying customers. And it's that could be a challenge for a lot of software engineers because, they're comfortable with the coding and the building part, but to do sales and marketing effectively, it's a whole nother world, and you really have to get out of your bubble. You have to reach out to other people and be proactive, and just kind of put yourself out there. You can't build something and then not ever talk about it or not introduce it to somebody and expect it to be a big success. So
that's a mistake a lot of us make. We think that if we build it, they will come, because we'll build it really well. It'll be awesome code, it'll be high quality, and we forget that the customer doesn't see the quality. They don't know what it's like under the hood, and it could be awesome. It could solve all the problems, but if they don't know it exists, they will never try it. They will never find out. So I think that's as you say, something a lot of people struggle with.
One of the biggest lessons that I've learned so far with working on side projects, building SaaS apps on the side is all the pre-work, if you will, the work that needs to be done before you even write a line of code, right? So being able to wrap your brain around the problem that you're trying to solve and kind of iterating, whether that's with AI or with other close friends you have or other people in the tech industry, but iterating on potential solutions and ideas that could work, that could solve that problem. Talking to real people out there that are experiencing that problem and understanding, what they've tried that hasn't worked, or maybe what their complaints or their issues are with a current solution they have that is mostly doing the job but not quite all the way. And then before you start coding, putting up some kind of a wait list or some kind of a like coming soon page, right? To kind of start building that audience and that user base of people that early on can become, beta testers, early users, but eventually some of those hopefully can become, paying customers. And that's one of the major lessons that I've learned about building so far is just that importance of, not just going straight to the code and coming up with that solution, but actually talking to real people and getting them, kind of interested in what you're trying to do, what you're trying to solve, and actually getting their name and their email address, right? So that you can contact them later and you can keep them up to date with your progress and hopefully, give them access to your solution when it's ready.
And in doing that, have you done anything to try and validate, that this is definitely a problem that they have and that it's a problem that they pay to solve? They're not just telling you what they think you want to hear, but they're actually genuinely telling you useful information.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's different methods I've used, whether it's, creating small surveys with, very targeted questions, and sharing that out with my audience, or having, a couple interviews with, potential like that ideal customer, and just kind of understanding, what are some of the things they've tried, what are maybe some of the other apps they've used, what are they looking to solve, what problem needs to be solved for them. Even questions like, what would they be willing to pay for something like this, for a particular app or a service, right? I think doing that gives you data, to work off of, and that way you're not kind of flying blind when it comes to your launch, or your initial kind of marketing plan, right? You'll have some data to go back to, and some numbers and some metrics, and the great thing about talking with people before you even start coding is you can get a sense of that, what your MVP is going to look like, and what that initial feature set is going to be based on what users are saying.
Yeah, and maybe you get a sense that it's completely the wrong thing, or that there's this other bigger problem just alongside it that you could focus on first for the MVP. Cool. And what about personal branding then? How has personal branding played into both the side hustle and developing the career?
Yeah, the personal branding is another theme of mine. My content, and another focus area for me, and it's just really something that I'm passionate about, and honestly, it's something I wish I started doing, 20 years ago when I first got involved in tech. It's
Me too.
whether it's your career or your professional life, there's always those things that you kind of like get a little angry and mad at yourself, and you wish you had done it a little bit earlier. And I think personal branding is one of those things, and not so much for really not at all for the fame, or for the like vanity of having so many followers or subscribers to your newsletter. It's really all about you know the impact that you can have, the making connections and forming new relationships with people, and just giving, just building your network, to have a little bit more stability and security, right? We all know, especially nowadays, and working in tech is a lot different than when I first started. Unfortunately, I feel like COVID and the pandemic really changed the game for things. Companies are very quick to lay off a whole bunch of employees just overnight for various reasons. You hear about those stories, it seems like on a weekly basis now, right? And so I feel like it's having a full-time job in tech now is not as secure as it was, probably back when you first started, back when I first started. I think that whether you're just starting out in tech now, or you've been in the industry for 10, 20 years, you're doing yourself and your career harm if you're not thinking about personal branding, and you're not thinking about your online presence. And so I think that's why I focus on it a lot. That's why I bring it up and talk about it a lot in my content, and in podcasts and live streams and things like that. Just to me, the benefits are endless, and it's a fantastic way to really highlight what you're learning, and how you're growing as a software engineer. It's an opportunity and an outlet to also share everything that you're doing on the side, whether it's building an app, or starting a side hustle, or writing a newsletter. It's just another way to let other people know that you have something to say. You feel like you want to take up space in this world, and you have a voice, and that you want to help people, and you want to teach others what you've learned. And the last thing I'll say is just that personal branding, and creating content on LinkedIn, writing my newsletter, all those things have really expanded my network, and allowed me to connect with and meet all kinds of people all over the world. And some of those people have, when I've been out of work and I've been, looking for a new job, some of those people have actually made introductions for me. They've referred me for jobs. They've, connected me with a friend or with a colleague at another company, maybe. And they've made a real, like, tangible impact in my career. And so I think that is one of the biggest reasons to take personal branding seriously, and really think about what you can do consistently to grow your brand.
Yeah, and you've really hit an important bit there, that it's about expanding your network, and that doesn't mean that you have to get X 100,000 followers or becoming an influencer and focus on going viral, lots and lots of likes, whatever. It's those connections. It's a network that's valuable. So you might be better off having 20 to 100 amazing, good connections that you know well, rather than 100 to 200,000, 300,000 followers that you don't really know that well. It's the value of that network. And again, if you have a unique skill, maybe even 10 people in your network because you have a unique skill is worthwhile. It's that connection, and that value is useful. Another thing you mentioned there is the way the market is now, and I think it's easy to forget that the economy in general is cyclical, and the software or tech industry is no different. So I've been around this industry for nearly 30 years now, and I have seen it this bad almost before. Very, in the late 1990s, early 2000, we had the dot-com bubble burst, and we had the telco crash shortly afterwards. And I know people that were out of work for 6 or 12 months then. I got made redundant back then from a telco company myself. I was quite lucky in that respect, in that I literally just picked up the phone to a job agent and said, hey, I've just been made redundant. And I had a new job the next day as a result of that. So I had skills that were very in demand. It was very easy in those days to do it, but there were other people that struggled because tech changed suddenly with the dot-com boom. There were a lot of people that had been, say, in the UK at least, in telco and finance then, and suddenly everything was changing to being more about the web. So there was an industry shift. And again, we saw, to a lesser extent, but we did see the economic impact in 2008, 2009. We had the financial crisis. And again, that impacted quite a lot of people. I think it's hit far worse in the last couple of years because we had COVID and we had the massive overhiring that people did then. And then post to that, we've had tax changes in the US, we've had increased interest rates, we've had a bit more global instability, and I think that's led to a whole lot of things coming together and impacting it so that it's probably the worst market we've seen since 2000.
Yeah.
And a quite difficult one for people. But I think the cycles will change. Personally, I don't think AI is really impacting that much. I think it's used as an excuse for a lot of layoffs. And I think a lot of the AI tools have a use, not as much as some of the CEOs would have us believe their tools do, but they definitely can be useful and worthwhile leveraging. What's been your thoughts on AI?
I tend to agree with you, John. I mean, I think that, and obviously, I talk a lot about the human side of software engineering, and I do think that there's still a place for human software engineers, if you will, right? I think, yes, certainly AI can be used to speed up coding. And, if you give a certain AI model a really good prompt, it might be able to come back with some pretty solid code. But when you're talking about, software that needs to power security systems or banks or equipment for air traffic control, things like that, you obviously can't rely 100% on AI and on computers. You need, humans to be able to confirm and validate and test and do all those things. So I think there's still certainly today a need for all of that, all of those jobs as in software engineering. And I also think, from a product development perspective, from a, companies that are focused on digital products that are building SaaS apps, who are they marketing their products towards? Other humans. It still is vital, and it will continue to be vital for software engineers to effectively collaborate with product managers, with designers, with product development teams, to figure out ways to to build that ideal feature set for that product, and to market that product effectively, and to listen to user feedback and integrate that into the product and into what they're building next. I do feel a little bad for some of the companies that are putting all of their eggs in the AI basket, because I just don't think it's quite there yet. And it can be a tool, but I don't think it's the complete solution yet.
I mean, I personally don't think that LLMs will ever be the complete solution. They can be useful, and I've certainly managed to leverage them for some productivity gains in some areas, but they're so far off some of the claims that are made that they'll replace software engineers in 3 to 6 months. And quite frankly, it's ridiculous to claim that they will be able to. And again, generating code is one of the lowest value aspects of software engineering anyway. The highest value has always been talking to that other human, saying, well, what do you want it to do? What are the requirements? Okay, you want it to open this valve, or close this door, move this money, apply this transaction. But what if this condition's set? What if this edge case is set? What happens then? What happens if we don't have any stock? It's all those edge cases and getting those requirements that we're not very good at doing when we're humans, but having that conversation at least starts that thing. AI is not very good at answering those, and we can't just come along and say, make me some software that deals with order processing, because it's not going to come back and get all those edge case requirements, and we're, as humans, very, very bad at thinking about them and doing them. So even if AI could generate all the code perfectly, I think there's still a role for software engineers to do what we should always have been doing, and going through that requirements analysis and capturing those requirements clearly and unambiguously, which is, I think, still the hardest part of software engineering. And in many ways, the bit that we try and gloss over quite a lot, because it is so hard and it's not as fun as writing code.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. So you've also had another side project recently. So I saw you announce and Build to Give. What's that about, David?
Yeah, so I'm really excited to talk with you about that. So yeah, I'm actually working with the Built in Public team, as well as I founded my own nonprofit called Build to Give. I'll start with the Built in Public first, and then move over to Build to Give. But yeah, so Built in Public, was started by Kristen Martin, and it was kind of her really idea to build an online community for tech professionals, developers, designers, other people involved with technology, and really giving them a platform, a community, a safe space to be able to build in public, create a profile, add projects. Maybe someday create posts and kind of engage and interact with other builders that way. But it's an exciting project and community that's slowly growing. And I joined the team to help out with development efforts, but also kind of be a little bit of an advisor to some of the developers that are working on the project. A lot of them are kind of early career, mid career, and so I'm doing my best to lead them, help mentor them, and just advise Kristen on what I think the team should be focused on and working on as they move towards MVP. So it's been a very already rewarding project for me to be involved with, and it's a nice segue into Build to Give, which is another idea that I'm really excited about. The way that Build to Give came about is really just a lot of my attention and focus lately, and connections have been with early career tech professionals, mostly developers. And as we talked about earlier, the job market is brutal right now. A lot of developers, early career software engineers, they're going to boot camp, they're, doing things on the side and really trying to build up their portfolio in hopes that they can get that first job. But it is becoming very challenging and very difficult because of the job market. And so I came up with this idea to connect early career tech professionals with nonprofits and actually give those professionals real world experience and help them develop their skill set as volunteers, as people giving of their time and their service to nonprofits. And I've worked with a couple of nonprofits over the years, and I've always, come to the conclusion that their funding and money for projects is very hard to come about for nonprofits, as well as having dedicated resources for digital products. And so that's kind of where I think Build to Give will come into play and hopefully be effective for both early career professionals as well as nonprofits.
Cool. That's a really nice mission, and it's a win-win for both parties, isn't it?
Yes.
People get something real on their portfolio and some real world experience, and the nonprofits get some very valuable help without having detracted funding from supporting their core mission.
Yes.
Cool. How's it going so far?
It's going really well. I put out a survey form, just kind of asking for volunteers and asking for nonprofits that are interested. I got over 60 responses to that. Most of them volunteers, developers, designers, project managers that want to help out and want to volunteer their time to this cause. And I've started a Slack workspace for Build to Give, so I've had some people join that as well. And we just had our kickoff meeting recently, and had over a dozen people attend that. So it was great to just get people together, meet them, welcome everybody, and obviously shared my mission, my vision, and some short-term and long-term goals with those people as well in the kickoff meeting. And yeah, we're focused on doing some branding right now for Build to Give. So we can get a proper logo and a website out there. And then I'd really love to put forth a pilot program where we can hopefully identify 2 to 3 nonprofits that we can help build, digital tools for them, whether that's small app or a refresh of their website, whatever it may be. And just see where it goes. Just give it a try and see what it's like to have volunteers come in and help out, and what the handoff of the project and the code looks like going over to the nonprofit. How we communicate and collaborate with the nonprofit and make sure that we're building something that they're going to be proud of. So I'm hoping that this pilot program will teach us what we need to know to go forth and hopefully work on some bigger, better, more robust projects in the future.
That's going to be awesome. So do you anticipate being able to give a reference to the people that volunteer their time for the project so that they can properly put it on their CV and use it as a reference to support their job applications?
Yeah, I want this to be a nonprofit, so it's going to be volunteers. So, I don't expect there to be any money exchanged. The volunteers won't be getting paid, and the nonprofits won't have to pay for the service of the volunteers. But I do want it to be a valuable experience, for both parties, especially for the volunteers. I want them to be able to talk about what they're building, share that on LinkedIn, use the content and that material of what they're creating and building as as content for their posts and whatever they're writing about, as well as certainly, being able to put it on their portfolio, on their resume as a legitimate project. And hopefully it'll be something a little bit more substantial and a little bit more exciting than, a to-do app or a calculator app or some small project that most, early career developers work on. I think being able to say, hey, I helped build this website for this nonprofit, or I helped create this digital tool for this grassroots initiative, right? And then having an actual URL that you can pop into your resume, your portfolio, and an established or potentially well-known like organization, being able to put that on your CV, I think is going to hopefully boost the chances of getting job interviews and landing that first job. So.
And circling right back to where we started, getting involved in that and working directly with a nonprofit, they're more likely to have more exposure to a customer than they might in some of their career jobs. The people for the nonprofit, they're going to have a chance to collaborate with different people who have different motivations, different levels of engagement, time. So again, it's actually developing not just the technical skills, but a lot of those collaborative skills that you talked about at the beginning, a lot of that ability to work with different people, to empathize with them, to get in the customer's shoes and understand what they want and how you can help, and maybe start to understand a little bit about how nonprofits work and how that business works, and perhaps how they're marketing and why this tool is valuable to them. So again, I think there's a lot of great value there, not just on the technical side, but the whole suite of skills that you need to be a software engineer these days.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's another thing that's worth calling out is I think just being able to help with those people skills, communication skills, actually working on a team. And that's kind of how I envision these projects being worked on, as really, a full-fledged, independent, self-sufficient build team of, developers, designers, project managers, QA, really being able to work together to, design, create, and build a digital tool or a solution for a nonprofit. And that's going to give people that real world experience of what it's like to work on a team with people from other disciplines, right? Because as you can't just put your headphones on and code in your silo and and not talk to anybody. That is not how it works in the tech industry and in nowadays when you're working on a team. You have to collaborate with other engineers. You have to be able to communicate effectively with other product managers, designers. It's really a group project, it's a team effort, and so being able to give other being able to give early career professionals that experience, I think, is going to be really helpful.
Yeah, and again, even for the more experienced volunteers, a lot of people miss out and miss that opportunity to mentor junior developers. And back to what we said about teaching before, you learn so much when you mentor junior developers and help them. So it's a great chance,
Yes.
even for experienced people, to volunteer, contribute to that. And maybe if they're not getting the chance to mentor junior developers where they work because people aren't hiring them at the moment, or because they've got a senior on the team, it's giving them a great opportunity to learn and build those leadership skills that will help them at the next level of their career. So it's an awesome thing you're doing there, David. So we'll put all the links in the show notes, but what can people do to step up and get involved?
If Built in Public sounds interesting to you, and you want to get involved in that project, kind of building the next, hopefully the next big thing for an online community for tech professionals that want to build in public and showcase the projects that they're working on. You can reach out to Kristen Martin. You can reach out to myself on LinkedIn. And then if you're interested in being a volunteer for Build to Give, and you are developer, designer, project manager, or have experience working for nonprofits, or if you are a nonprofit yourself and you could use some help on the digital front, with your website or with your app, or something along those lines, you can always reach out to me. Probably the best place is LinkedIn. Just connect with me, send me a message, and I'd be happy to chat with you. Thank you so much for this opportunity, John. It's been great to connect and finally do this. Just really grateful for your support with all my endeavors and projects going on. And I'm always happy to support you in what you're doing too.
All right, thanks, David. Likewise, it's been great to talk to you and great to hear about Built in Public and Build to Give.
Great. Thanks so much.
Cool. Thank you.